Welcome to Brandon Debunks the World. So yeah, put on your swimmies because we're going to dive headfirst into the shallow end. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and visit us on Patreon, or the sports bookie is going to break my kneecaps. Through all the mythos found in nearly every culture, we hear stories and legends of a great flood, an enigma to geologists, a controversy to scholars, and easy teaching for hungover Sunday school teachers. I'm not here to debate the if, I'm here to tell the how. Using science and logic, once again, we are going to explain how something so impossible, so improbable, could actually happen. Of the many sources one could choose from, be it the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, or the Maya's Huracan flood that destroyed the wooden people, whatever in the ayahuasca hell that means. No source gives us as much detail about the world before, during, and after as the Holy Bible, or Torah if you get down with the gefilte fish. Notably, Genesis. It gives a rare set of environmental clues to understanding the circumstances surrounding this event, as well as one odd detail no one points to that we'll get to at the end of the video. A few things stand out in the Old Testament that are often ridiculed by people, notably longevity. In the time before the flood, people lived extremely long lives, 7 times the oldest known today. We also know from Genesis 9:13 there were no rainbows before the flood. We can also surmise from Genesis 2:5-6 that before the flood, there was no rain upon the earth. So let's take a look at these few things. What could prevent the formation of rain in the atmosphere, cause men to live extremely long lives, and not allow a rainbow to form in the sun's refraction? When the flood happened, it was said the waters of the earth and the deep spewed forth, and the floodgates of the sky were opened. What could all that mean? Do you know the difference between a sunny day and a Kansas trailer park destroying storm? It's barometric pressure. A normal day could be 30 inches of mercury, and when the pressure drops to 27.3, which is a minimal amount, you get yourself a damn Florida flooder. So imagine this, planet Earth with a higher barometric pressure than we have now, maybe upwards of 40 to 45 inches of mercury, and a significantly higher available oxygen content, possibly 30 to 35%, opposed to today's norm of around 21%. This might all sound far-fetched, but we know from air pocket samples in amber that the Earth did indeed have an O2 concentration north of 30%. So for the sake of argument, let's say the sea level pressure was a quarter higher and the O2 was close to double. This would make the whole of Earth a hyperbaric chamber. The possibilities of bacteria or viruses replicating or taking hold in the human body are nearly zero in such a state. That's why we use hyperbaric medicine to cure people of bacteria that have become antibiotic resistant. We also use it in the aid of healing physical wounds as well as neural health implications. This could lead to a massive increase in lifespan for even the chemically saturated of us today. But more importantly to this video, at these pressures, precipitation cannot form as we see it today. The Earth would be enveloped by a UV-blocking canopy of moisture and ozone, reflecting large portions of solar radiation and creating a warm, lush environment at ground level. All the while, the clouds could only form in the very, very higher parts of the atmosphere, and rain would never make it to the ground even if it did precipitate out. And with no large amounts of water vapor at sea level, rainbows are not even a thing at this point. So we have to ask, if this was the case, then where did the atmosphere go? How did this cause a flood of, well, biblical proportions? Yeah, I took the low road. My best inference is a once-in-a-planet's-lifetime event. I think what most likely occurred, the Earth was having magnetic field issues. The poles were not about to flip as they have countless times, but rather weakening and oscillating. At the same time, by sheer fate, the sun was ramping up a massive solar cycle and increasing in activity on the order of magnitude. At the same time, the magnetic field was at its weakest, near non-existent. The sun threw off the mother of all flares in a violent and sustained assault aimed right at us. Something to make the Carrington event look like a candle beside a bonfire. When the coronal mass ejection slammed the atmosphere, it began stripping it. With no magnetic shield and the sun vomiting a barrage of highly charged particles, it had no choice but to be ripped away. This dropped the barometric pressure by nearly a quarter, initiating the greatest release of precipitation ever known. Clouds didn't have to form. The storms didn't have to grow. It was as if the air became saturated before your very eyes. The amount and force of the rain that must have fell was probably something we can't even imagine. If you've ever seen a pressurized container suddenly decompress, you can see the air turn white as it precipitates out of the gas. Also, when this barometric pressure drop happened, any well or spring would have ruptured forth as the pressure decreased, trying to reach an equilibrium. Any inlet to subterranean sources would have been like a geyser. Liquefaction of the soil would have occurred on a global scale, swallowing anything heavy or unlucky enough to get caught in the quicksand-like grip. I also imagine anyone exposed would have suffered some initial effects from the pressure change, almost like the bends. And that brings us to our weird little detail I said I would point out from the beginning of the video. In the story of Noah, God tells him to cover the ark in pitch, inside and out, and to build this as a sealed vessel from top to bottom. I firmly believe this was to slow the decompression rate for the inhabitants. Even if it leaked down over a day or two, this would be much preferred since there was no chewing gum and no one likes their ears popping. As we come to the end of the video, lastly, on a fun note, Noah after the flood got smashificated on some wine. Sounds like a small detail, but Noah was a good man, not a drunkard, and I'm sure he could hold his. If you ever drink a beer at nearly 15,000 feet above sea level on the side of a mountain, like yours truly, you'll know what I mean. When your body is not used to lower pressure and decreased O2, just one beer and you get cockeyed with a quickness. To surmise, I feel the world I've described answers so much about our mythology, not just Jewish or Christian, but a wealth of others from all cultures under the same blue sky. The story of the flood is as universal as a smile, known by all, but understood by few. Thank you for watching Brandon Debunks the World. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and check us out on Patreon, or not. It's your call, no pressure. Comment down below, give us some ideas for more shows, or just vent from the safety of your basement about how wrong I am with no repercussions or, real world consequences.